All right, so what I want to talk about is a big topic. It's dieting versus fasting, and what the difference is, what the benefits of each one are, and the purposes of each one, because they're actually two completely different things, right? You would think dieting and fasting are pretty much the same thing, right? But they're not. And the body does two, it reacts completely differently to each one. So a diet is when you bring your calories down. You go from, say you're eating 2,000 calories a day and you want to lose 10 pounds, so you cut to 1,900 calories a day. You do a 5% deficit, or 1,800 calories, you do a 10% deficit, and now you're slowly losing like a half pound a week over 20 weeks. And over 20 weeks, you eventually lose your 10 pounds, and then your new baseline is 1950, and you go back to eating that. And once you do that, you have basically stabilized, everything's good to go, or so they say. But there's one small problem. The entire time, you're semi-hungry. So everyone who has ever dieted knows the problem with most diets is that you're hungry on the diet. Your body wants to eat more. You're still craving. You're going to break a diet. You're going to do all these things. That's because dieting isn't easy. The body doesn't necessarily always like to diet. The other thing, especially with the super low cal diets, it's almost dangerous because there's a difference between dieting and fasting, or low calorie dieting, even worse, and fasting. Is that when you do say low calorie and you're like, I'm only going to eat a pack of crackers today, I'm just going to eat super low calorie. Well, the problem with that is that in fasting, eventually your digestion system actually like turns off, like it digests everything and then it stops. So the fire, if you will, kind of slows down, and it's more like a simmer. Versus if you just keep eating a small amount, it keeps burning, and your metabolism still wants more food, and so then it's gonna start to like actually kind of hurt you in a way. Versus fasting, what it does, and I'm no doctor, right? This is just kind of how I've kind of learned about it, is that fasting is going to go through the food in your stomach. It's going to go through everything, and then you're going to hit autophagy, where your body starts to go through the different parts of itself that are damaged or need repair, or damaged proteins, things like that. And it's going to start to pick those out and start to heal itself that way. Whereas with a diet, your body doesn't exactly get to start, it doesn't ever goes into autophagy. It's not that it doesn't exactly, no, it does not go into autophagy. And so extended low calorie diets can damage the body, and I would argue more so than a fast would. Reason being, if instead of doing, say, an extended low calorie diet, because at the end of the day, what's the purpose of a low calorie diet? The low calorie diet is to get you below your baseline of X amount of calories per week, right? So say you're eating 2,000 calories a day, 7 days a week, so that's 14,000 calories. If you want to lose 1 pound, that's like 35 or 3,600, somewhere around that, right? Let's just make it easy and make it 4,000, right? I know it's 3,600 or 3,500, but let's make it 4,000 just to make it easy. So that means that if you want to lose a pound a week, you got to cut down to like 10,000 or 10,500 calories or something like that instead of 14,000, right? If you want to lose a half pound, you only got to cut down 2,000 calories. But the thing about that is, if you want to cut down the 2,000 calories, you got to do that over a bunch of days. So that's like 200 or 300 calories a day, right? And so instead of eating 2,000, you're going to eat 1,700. Now, I know that was a lot of math, but let's make this a little bit easier. Instead of doing that, we're going to do a fast. And we're going to do a fast 1 day a week. And so your 2,000 calories, instead of it having to be spread out over 7 different days, you actually just burn through 2,000 calories in 1 day, and you sleep that night, and then you wake up and just eat like normal the other days. Now, does that mean that if you're eating over calorie every other day that you're going to start losing weight? No, the math is still the same. You keep gaining weight. But if you fast for 1 or 2 days, especially if you're in a position health-wise you're able to do this, Don't just jump into it if you've never done intermittent fasting. Like there's a bunch of stuff to this. We can get into the details of fasting, but first I want to talk about fasting versus dieting, because that's a very important topic. And a lot of people even assume fasting is dangerous. Fasting is not necessarily dangerous as long as you have proper hydration, right? You have the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that your body needs. You have the electrolytes and everything like that, right? And you're in good health well enough to where you can handle the fast. Now, it's not for everybody. This is why you would practice intermittent fasting first. But if you're trying to lose weight and you are in reasonably good health, right? And you've checked with your doctor and you've gone through all of that other stuff, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so now we're there. With fasting, you can go 1 day or 2 days at a time. And if I'm going to do 1 day, and a lot of the time, instead of doing 24 hours, I'm going to skip to a like 32 to 36 hour fast. So like I'm going to sleep that night, because if I'm in autophagy, I don't want to cut it right before I go to bed. Like I'd rather get 8 free hours of like autophagy, because the hardest day is the first day, right? So if you can do day 1 and you can push on to day 2, then you get the benefits of fasting without having to go about and do like day 1 over and over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, if you can do 2 days in a row, even once a month, that's super beneficial. And then at some point, after a few practice runs, after you kind of get good at it, like it took me a few tries, you can go to day 3 and you can get to 72, or in my case, I'll do 80 just because I get that free night's sleep. And at 72 hours, that's when autophagy peaks, right? So your body has, at that point, around the 36-hour mark, what happens is your body has gone through all of the sugars, the food, whatever you'd eaten before, and it's also gone through a lot of the stored glycogen. So what happens is at 36 hours, you switch over to ketones, and so you're now in ketosis. And so from 36 hours to 72 hours, you're basically in full ketosis mode, and autophagy is starting to ramp up. Now, ketosis, the way keto and ketones and all these keto words work, is it's using fat cells. So it uses fat cells to fuel the body. What that means is you're using your body's own stored fat to fuel the body. Now, anybody who's ever done keto knows that keto is really, really good for brain function. You feel really on it whenever you are on keto. That's because your body, once it gets used to it, burns fat very efficiently. So if you've never done keto before, it can be a good thing to try it out some before you start jumping into heavy fasts, just so you can understand how ketones and keto works. With that being said, it's not the most important thing in the world, but it does help. I've done keto before I started doing fasting. I'd done intermittent fasting before I started doing extended fasting. Those are both baby steps you can do to make it easier. I had also done dieting, and I will tell you from firsthand experience, I prefer fasting to dieting. I will probably, if the only time I would ever diet is if I was doing like a bodybuilding show or something, which I highly doubt I would do, but if I were to do it, that is when I would do like a lower calorie diet rather than just doing a 1 or a 2 day fast to cut some weight and then get back to it, unless I'm trying to shred, right? And it's different things for different reasons, right? But in this case, say your goal is to cleanse or to lose weight or to just feel better or to be healthier, right? If you want to be healthy, fasting is a very important part of that. Fasting is talked about over 72 times in the Bible. So if that means anything to you, as it does to me, then that means at least warrants a small bit of research, a small bit of respect into what can this do? Because what happens is at that day 3 point, when autophagy peaks, your body starts to eat through the bad cells. Now, what I did, and I don't necessarily recommend this for anybody, definitely not on the first go around by no means, but after extended attempts and after multiple trials and after being able to do so comfortably, you can extend past to 4 or 5 days or 7 days. But again, this time you probably should speak with either a medical professional or make sure that your blood markers are on track. There's a lot of things that can not go well, right? Not necessarily like you're very unlikely to die, right? In a fast, like it's very unlikely unless you're starting with like no body fat, you've never gotten any minerals and anything like that. Like just be careful, right? It's not unheard of, but you can also, there's all kinds of ways you can die, right? So just be very careful. But with that being said, as long as you're in decent health, like, fasting is not going to kill you. Just make sure you're getting plenty of water, right? Lemon juice and Celtic salt is basically my go-to. It keeps the electrolytes going, the magnesium and the potassium and everything like that. And don't push yourself too hard, right? Don't do, just because I'm doing something doesn't mean you have to do it. That's what I wanted to do. So I did 14 days because I felt I could push to 14 days. Now, with that being said, it was some of the most miserable days, especially in the end there, of my entire life. So I don't recommend it to everybody. I don't even recommend it to most people. If you start with even a 1 or a 2 or a 3-day fast, right? Super impressed. That's incredible. That's awesome. I'm super proud of you. But don't just jump in to do some crazy stuff just because you see me doing it. Okay, I do a lot of crazy stuff. We're doing all kinds of nuts stuff. We just throw trees in the ground and microgreens everywhere and just blah. So yeah, of course I'm going to go extreme with it. Why not? Have some fun. But that's me. Don't do what I do just because I do it. If you want to, do your own research. But that's how that goes. But back to the point, dieting versus fasting. Fasting is significantly easier. Reason being, you get that 2,000 calories or that 4,000 calories you're going for. Like, say you are going for like a 3-day fast, right? You can lose 10 pounds in 3 days. And with that being said, be very careful. Don't go into this just for weight loss, right? Because weight loss, it's going to fluctuate. A lot of it's going to be glycogen. A lot of it's going to be water weight. So if you don't fix your lifestyle at the same time as you're working on fasting, things aren't going to stick. You have to go for walks. You have to eat better. What fasting will do is it will reset your food cravings, your food desires, especially a 3-day fast. That's long enough for you to start noticing, you could say, die-off symptoms. And these die-off symptoms, it's going to feel like headaches. It's going to feel like nausea. It might even be a little bit of vomiting. That is going to be the P word, the little wriggly worm things. I don't know if we're allowed to say it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Parasites, they exist, they're real. I'm sorry to inform you, parasites are a real thing. And with that, they hate fasting, okay? And especially 3 days. That's kind of what I found, is once you hit that 72-hour mark, and this is also why I do that bonus 8 hours, is to really get the parasites to just die. It doesn't kill them all, right? But it does kill the first round of them. The first time you see a parasite leave your body, your life changes, a little bit, because you're like, that came out of me? Where did that come from? That's crazy. And you're like, yeah, that's crazy, right? And then all of a sudden, it's just like, you're doing things a little bit differently. You're like, I wonder what I can eat to have less of those. And then you start looking into it. And then that was when I kind of stumbled upon the Leviticus section of the Bible. And I said, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it says that. And sure enough, that's what my research says. But hey, I'm just a guy in a cowboy hat on the internet. So what are you going to do? Yeah, fasting is much easier than dieting, especially once you get the hang of it. First couple times, it can be tough. For women, be extra cautious, right? You have different hormones. Don't just do it anytime, right? Like if you're on your cycle or something like that, you have to be more cautious. For men, especially men in good health, right? It's a lot easier to do it, especially if you have high body fat. Now, anyone with super duper low body fat, be very cautious. Remember, you're switching to ketones. If you don't have body fat for your body to switch to, it's going to be a lot harder. That was my issue around day 7, day 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I normally sit pretty low, like 11, 12% body fat. So as soon as I go 7 days without eating and I'm down to 6 to 7% body fat, I'm very slim. I lose a lot of weight. And so what happens to me is that I got lightheaded. So I had to drink more lemon water and more Celtic salt. But I was okay. My body pushed through. And now I do feel very good. With that being said, it was not easy. It sucked. Okay? I don't recommend it. Don't do it unless you really want to. In which case, good luck. But for a regular fast, 1, 2, 3 days, even 4 or 5 if you've got the practice runs in, right? Don't jump straight to that. Don't do it. It takes more than just brute force, right? You've got to be willing and able to take this step by step. You have to be gentle with yourself. You have to be gentle with your body, especially with the cleansing side of things. You can't just cleanse all at once, right? Imagine if you've got like an entire dump truck full of garbage in your body. but the exit chute is only like this big, right? If you just try to throw a whole dump truck through it, it's gonna hurt really bad and nothing's gonna happen. So instead you have to be real careful and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna take a little bit of trash out, little bit of trash out, little bit, and then at a time, and then the exit chute's like, oh, it's okay, I can actually like throw more trash out. And so eventually it makes it a little bit easier. And so then you can add in the herbs to help cleanse the lymphatic system. That's kind of the step in the process that I'm on now, because I found out it's like, okay, so my liver's doing this, my kidneys are doing this, my lymphatic system is doing this. The skin is basically the fourth detox pathway. So if you have a lot of skin conditions, a lot of the time that's your liver, kidneys, or lymph nodes calling out saying that they need help. Because if they can't go through the three primary detox pathways, first it's going to be like the liver, kidneys, and lymph nodes, they're going to go through the skin. And when they start going through the skin, that's how you know you've got some kind of buildup causing issues, right? And that is why post-fast, your skin looks really clear, right? Like, my skin's much clearer now than it was, but I generally have decent skin these days anyway, so it's only semi-noticeable. But it does help, right? Like, I just noticed across my entire body, my skin's smoother. I'm like, oh, wow, really cool. But it is what it is. But more importantly, fasting versus dieting, fasting's easier than dieting. But for some reason, dieting is push more, even though it's miserable and takes 10 times as long. So it's like, instead of dragging something out, what if there was a way to do it in less time? There is. Wow. So that's why we fast, okay? So we're able to get the same effect in less time. And so we do so, and it also allows you to go into autophagy. That's the biggest part of this, is it allows your body to actually pick apart the dead and dying and damaged cells and go into ketosis. And so you're feeding on the fat cells. And so not only are you feeding on fat, you're going into autophagy. Now, I did want to factor in one very, very important thing, and that's the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you consume before and after a fast. Now, if your liver, kidneys, lymph nodes, whatever, have certain jobs they have to do, imagine the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in your body as the tools, right, on the tool belt of these different organs to be able to do these jobs. Now, if you want to shingle a roof, you need shingles, and you need nails, and you need a hammer, and you just start hammering nails into shingles on a roof, right? Just do it right, and you'll be good to go, right? Eventually, you'll have yourself a roof. And that's your liver. It does like 500 different jobs. He's a handyman, does it all. But if you want him to nail in a roof, and you don't give him any nails, and you take away his hammer, and then you're like, get to work, what is he going to do? Just start like smacking the shingles on with his hand? Smack them? No, it's not going to do anything. So before you jump in and just start fasting, or even before you just start dieting, right, and hoping your body's going to fix itself, maybe you should look into the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that your body is not getting from your day-to-day food. That way, you can actually bring those in first, and then once you get that stuff, once that stuff's in your body, then you'll be able to actually make a difference. Then your diet will make more of an impact, because when you're at a lower caloric point and your body has to start burning the fat, it actually has the resources, because the way toxins and the way things like that work is when the liver gets overburdened, right? When the liver gets overburdened, it stores the toxins, the damaged cells, whatever it is, it stores it in the only thing it has left, which is fat cells. It puts it in a cell, it puts the little poison pocket into the cell, closes it up, seals it away for later, and says, I'll get to you when I have time. And there it sits. And so if all of a sudden you find yourself gaining more and more and more weight, that's because your liver is tired. It's because your kidneys are tired. And so they put everything off to the side. They're like, I'm going to get to that when I have the resources to mess with it. So before you start doing anything and trying to chip away and do the old Michelangelo and come out shredded, maybe you should consider what your body is missing. And then you can do the diet or the fast, whichever one you decide to do. Or you can do a mix of both, right? There are benefits to both, right? There are drawbacks to both. But either one you do, you need to have the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients either way. So that's why we grow microgreens. That's a big one. We ship in Panama City Beach. So if you're around here, you can get microgreens that have tons of vitamins, minerals, nutrients. or you can grow them yourself. You can do whatever you want to do. I learned how to do it online. It's growing food, man. It goes back to growing food. Learn how to grow food and you get your own vitamins. You can grow stuff. Here pretty soon we'll be able to grow stuff all over the place, and we'll be able to maybe ship stuff all over the place too. But I didn't invent vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. I didn't. You can get it any way you can. Now, I will say this. A lot of supplements are fake. So the FDA doesn't regulate supplements. I don't know what to tell you there. And so with that being said, do your own research, figure out what makes sense, and I will talk to you soon. So fasting versus dieting, both have their benefits. You know where I stand, but I also see the benefits of dieting as well. Talk to you soon. Peace out.